Hello and welcome to another Medicinal Monday. I'm Dr. Susanna Alter.
And I'm Dr. Benjamin.
And we're both naturopathic doctors who support individuals in reversing disease and reclaiming optimal health through whole food plant-based nutrition and mind-body medicine.
And welcome to another Medicinal Monday. If it's your first time stopping through, hello there. And we're so glad that you stumbled upon us here at Alter Health. We do record these Medicinal Mondays as well as the Wisdom Wednesday episodes in the Plant-Based and Stress-Free Facebook group live. We also are on YouTube. And of course, we're on all the podcast platforms. So we're happy to be connected with you wherever you are. And before we dive into our topic of nutrition and mental health, which really does, I guess, weave everything that we're so in love with here at Alter Health together. Are there any announcements, Dr. Susanna?
Yes.
Oh, great.
Well,
I'm glad I asked.
Tonight in the Plant-Based and Stress-Free group, we are hosting our free liver support masterclass. That's a free 60-minute course that we are, or class, I should say, not a course, that we'll
be grading, and you'll be getting your degree in liver health.
Yes, but we'll be covering, all the essentials of how to really support liver function on a daily basis so that you can live your most detoxifying lifestyle.
Yeah, and on that note, we do have the cleanse registration open for the Alter Health seasonal cleanse, the midsummer cleanse starting July 11th. So you can learn more at alter.health/cleanse. So now let's talk about...
I hope it's okay I'm doing this, but we're both really blurry. So can I just...
Oh, we're blurry?
Yeah, let's just focus the camera.
Oh, thanks for letting me know. We want to get into focus here.
There we are.
Okay.
Oh, so much crisper.
Get into focus as we get into the topic. Let's focus now. So let's talk about food and mood. And really, I have to state, just to start off here, honestly, at Alter Health, with our understanding of mind, thought, consciousness, and where the human experience unfolds from, we actually separate physical health from our well-being, from our state of peace. And I know a lot that might be like, wait, what do you mean? And what I mean is that what we do to our bodies, what we put in our bodies, and what we experience physically does not have power over our emotional well-being and experience. That's to say, if we do have chronic pain and chronic inflammation and chronic fatigue and, IBS and whatever we have, whatever we're experiencing physically, we still have the potential to experience complete peace and connection with our innate health and wisdom emotionally, spiritually. That I think we should just put out there. That's a fact. We are always connected with our innate peace and well-being. And we've probably had the experience of, I had a headache and I was in a bad mood. And then so-and-so came over and we started talking about this and we watched a movie and we had a meal and my headache was gone. And, but then the person left and then I got back into my thoughts and then I was experiencing more pain and more emotional disconnection. So it's just so interesting how we can really, really quickly shift between states of mind, if you will, and also states of physiology. And sometimes it might feel completely out of our control. And we aren't saying that you should try and control your experience, because sometimes that desire for control can have kind of this backfiring effect that we're probably all aware of in our human experience. But that being said, our approach, if you will, to really living a peaceful life is simply understanding where our experience comes from, so we don't feel victimized or at the whim of our, momentary thought realm experience or momentary physiology experience. We really are, our health is beyond that. Our health is innate. And we are always encouraging people to connect with that, which is always true and always there.
Yeah. And actually, the discussions we have about mind, thought, and consciousness happen on our Wisdom Wednesdays. Another, our Wednesday episode on this podcast. But, I think it's great that the question came up in our plant-based and stress-free group. People want to know the link between mental health and whole food plant-based nutrition. And I think, it's worth going over what the research is showing. Yeah. And then I think, it'd be interesting for us to kind of interpret that from a lens of mind, thought, and consciousness. Like, why is it that eating whole food plant-based turns out it ends up, really, let's just go over some of the research.
That's a good idea, because that's the whole point, is the understanding of mind, thought, consciousness, whatever words you want to call it, and where the human experience unfolds. That understanding allows us to connect the dots within ourselves, and again, allows us to understand where our momentary human experience is coming from, so that it's not like we always say, it's not a prescriptive, like you need to think this and do this and live this in order to feel peacefully. But it's like when we do understand, we have the common sense and the insights to take better care of ourselves. And I think this is where things connect, both, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. We take better care of ourselves based on like the thoughts that we are living into, and the thoughts that we're believing, and the stories that we're creating for ourselves. We take better care of ourselves that way. And of course, we then tend to take better care of ourselves just on the common sense, physical way of putting better fuel in our bodies and so forth.
Yeah.
So what does the research say, Dr. Susanna?
Well, it turns out that whole food plant-based eating is correlated with better moods.
What?
Woo-hoo!
Who would have thought?
Yes.
Who would have thought
so that? Several mood scores, and this is all, kind of their best way of objectifying moods, right? People rate on a scale of 1 to 10 what their mood is or what their experience is in the moment. And so mood scores improved, meaning less feelings of depression, less anxiety, more productivity, clearer mind, less brain fog. So that's great. That's, that's wonderful to see an improvement in those scores from eating whole food plant-based. But why is it? How does science explain why people might be feeling better with this way of eating? Well, the biggest theory is, of course, that when we eat whole food plant-based, we drastically reduce overall inflammation in the body, which will then decrease neuroinflammation in the brain. And there's a lot of discussion about how neuroinflammation can have some component in mood disorders or mood dysregulation.
And this is where Dr. Ben's skepticism comes in, and was like, does mood really come from our brain? Like, is mood really a neurochemical phenomenon? Because my understanding of neurochemistry is that that's a theory, and there's not a whole lot of rigorous science holding up that theory. Turns out my understanding is that our mood is more than just the chemicals floating around in our system from moment to moment. But that being said, back to the research, what I hear and what I think is important in that kind of information is essentially, when there's less noise in the system, less quote unquote inflammation or toxicity, whatever you want to call it, less kind of irritation physiologically on that. Maybe it's like on that microscopic cellular level, or maybe it's more systemic and we can feel it. But in any case, when there's less of that kind of noise, then there's just more clarity. And there's more peace in the system cellularly, and there's less input, and then there's just less irritation.
There's less, like the way I like to put it is there's less stimuli. So there's less. For example, when we have a day where we feel kind of just cloudy and brain fog, it's like, we start judging it, like, I'm really not thinking very clearly today. I hate the way this feels. I'm just having a bad day. We can kind of like, because of a physical experience we're having, we can create more and more and more thoughts about it. And from those thoughts, that creates our experience. Our thoughts create our experience.
100%, and I'll be the first to admit whenever I don't feel well, whether it's, I hurt my leg, or right now my calf is kind of like pulled and I feel like I'm kind of limping around.
That's why you've been so cranky today.
Yeah. Whenever there's those stimuli, it's like, I don't feel my best. I don't feel my best. Obviously physically, I don't feel my best, mentally, emotionally, but that I also know, back to what I said in the beginning, which is the truth. I also know that I'm capable of feeling my best emotionally, spiritually connected and peaceful, regardless of how my calf feels or how my head feels. Like, I know that I've had that experience. I know that my blah mood is not a result of my sore leg or my headache or my stomach ache or anything like that. But that being said, there's just more thoughts that are potentially oriented in that direction of, oh, this sucks. I want this to be different. I want this to go away. And then, I'm once again, I'll be the first to admit that I get caught up in that dwelling on what I want to be different, what I want to change. And if there was like an equation for well-being, I've always kind of understood it to be, our experience of peace is the degree to which we have, we are in alignment with the dissolution of expectations. So the more expectations that we have, the further we are from peace. So anyways, back to all of those inputs into the system. And it's like, oh, we want those inputs to change. We want those feelings to be different. We want those symptoms to go away. So when we don't have the neuroinflammation, when we don't have the toxicity, it's just less noise. So there's less of those inputs. So there's more likelihood of just being more present with ourselves. And what is presence? It's where we are able to experience our innate peace, our innate well-being, our true nature.
Yes. Yeah. So in addition to the piece about reducing neuroinflammation, also, of course, the research on the microbiome and the link between the microbiome and mood is huge. And so, I mean, there's more and more research coming out about the more diversity we have in our microbiome, the better everything is, including digestion, our immune system, but also mood. And one of the explanations is because some big percentage of serotonin, there's a neurotransmitter.
This is where you lose me, Dr. Susanna.
Some big percentage of serotonin, and I don't know the exact number, the hypothesized number, is produced actually in our gut.
Yeah.
And is produced more optimally if we've got a healthy, diverse microbiome.
Quick little tangent, just because it's coming up. About a decade or so ago, I had some neurochemistry tests done where they measure neurochemicals or neurotransmitters in my blood or brain, or I think it was a urine sample, or saliva. No, I think it was a urine sample. But anyways, my serotonin, dopamine, whatever, it was like rock bottom. Like I didn't have any.
Uh-oh.
And I felt great. I felt peaceful. I felt awesome. I was like in such a good place and space. And, the doctor who ordered this test was like, well, this is interesting. Like, maybe, and she ended up recommending that I take some supplements to provide the building blocks to build these neurotransmitters. But that really planted the seed within me that was, once again, like, does my well-being come from chemicals in my body? Like, is that a real thing, or is that a theory that has been pumped into the system? And I'm blanking on the book that's more recent, in the last few years, that is a great read, at least the first half of it, talking about the weak science that's connecting this neuromolecular, neurochemical phenomenon.
What's the name of the book?
I'm blanking on the book.
Oh.
Maybe some people know it. It's a thick read. but anyways, there's just not a lot of connection there. And it's really a theory that has been created and perpetuated by the pharmaceutical industry largely to sell medications that can, quote unquote, correct neurochemical imbalances that may or may not exist, or the quote unquote imbalances may or may not have anything to do with the symptoms that we experience. But the placebo effect, boy, is it strong when we're talking about correcting, quote unquote, or regulating mood. Anyway, that's kind of that's a little tangent that we could explore at a later date if I remember that book.
Yeah, but I think a big message that we're putting across is that despite where you're at in your healing journey or whole food plant-based journey, despite what physical symptoms you may still have, that well-being and peace, it's not all reliant upon where your body is.
100%. 100%. Yeah, 100%. And while I think like the moral of the story here is like, yes, the science exists that the better you feel yourself, the better you feel physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. Like, and we love hearing those stories of, oh, I've had all these, like, I started cleaning up my diet and just had all these kind of spiritual experiences, and it's wonderful and it makes a lot of sense. It really does to me. Again, when we clear out the noise, we have that strength and connection with who we truly are, and everything just kind of clicks and we have those insights maybe. But that being said, I think it's also, like you said, Dr. Susanna, so important to know that our mental health, our peace, our well-being doesn't come from anything outside of ourselves, including our food, including a supplement, including our water. These things that we can bring into our body to optimize our physical health can help us to feel better physically, which can have these rippling out effects. But at the same time, you don't have to look any further than like impoverished countries and societies and cultures and communities where there's just so much peace and so much happiness and so much joy, and they might not have much at all, and they might have like perpetual infections from drinking cruddy water, and they might also have a lot of suffering. There might also be a lot of conflict and turmoil and these sort of things, but it's not like the experience, the individual unique human experience comes from within, moment to moment, based on our understanding of where we are and how things are flowing through us. And hopefully, I guess really my intention is to have a more empowering message. And lastly, like, then you can wrap it up, because I feel like you're good at that, Dr. Susanna. But the last thought for me is that, I think a lot of people try to fix the physical, nutritional, lifestyle thing. And then it's like, okay, I'm going to fuel my body first with the way it needs, and then I'll kind of like focus on my mental health, or then things will kind of click into place. But really, if there was like an order to taking care of oneself, I think far and away, like, the priority is to kind of understand our human experience and reconnect with peace, and see through that illusion of disconnection, rather. And then from that, we're automatically feeling more connected with, once again, the common sense, the creativity, the wisdom that just guides us to take best care of ourselves, whether it's, believe in, healthier thinking about ourselves, or, fueling ourselves better with better food choices, and staying moving and hydrating and sleeping better, these sort of things.
Yeah. And I mean, I guess I'll just wrap up by reminding everyone about the foundation of health, about the determinants of health, which are literally like the building blocks of our health. And in this group, on this podcast, we talk a lot about nutrition, which is food. That's one of 7 blocks of that create this foundation of health. And the others are water, air, the air we breathe, air quality, water quality, hydration status, movement and rest. And then we get into the more kind of metaphysical foundational aspects, thoughts, relationships, purpose. And so the way that I see it is like, well, yeah, if we just rely on one determinant of health to improve another determinant of health, I don't know, will we get there? But if we focus on all 7 determinants of health at once, as we are, supporting ourselves in really achieving our health goals, that's the approach that I like, is like, hey, okay, how can we optimize all aspects of our foundation?
Yeah. And again, I think it is just common sense. It is just getting rid of the crap, like physically, physiologically, nutritionally, getting rid of the crap, reconnecting with nature, aligning with like natural principles and laws. And then, going back into the energetic, metaphysical, whatever, same thing, getting rid of the crap, aligning with the truth, and boom, click, insight, health, peace, all of the above. We feel good, and life makes sense, and we're connected and in the flow. So thanks for hanging with us for another Medicinal Monday. And just as always, we encourage you to, leave any feedback, leave any comments, let us know how this lands. You can share this with a loved one if you're listening on YouTube or any podcast platform. And come on into the Plant-Based and Stress-Free Facebook group if you'd like to join and participate in the events that are always happening there. So we look forward to being in touch and seeing you next time.
Bye for now.
Peace and love.